The velocity of the particle at any time t is given by v is equal to t into 3 minus t meter per second. At what time is its velocity maximum? Okay, see, so before we go into the solution, let me just try to give a graphical interpretation of the concept here. See, let us assume we have a graph here which is drawn like this with the y-axis and the x-axis, and say this is the curve. Okay, now let us consider these 2 points, point A and say point B. If you draw a tangent at point B as well as point A, you will observe two things: that the tangent at A is basically parallel to the parallel to the x-axis. Okay. Now, what is the concept that we are trying to discuss here? See, the made by the angle made by the tangent with the positive x-axis. Now, tan of the angle made by the tangent at that point with the positive x-axis is what we call as slope. In which case, at B, what is slope? Slope is basically equal to tan of the tangent, tan of the angle made by the tangent with the x-axis. This is the tangent, and the angle, well, I have to be a bit more correct here because it looks slightly inclined. I hope the concept is clear, that I'm trying to say that this line is basically more parallel. Okay, so if, since the x-axis is also inclined, there's no point in redrawing this. So assume that this line is basically parallel to x-axis. Okay, so the representation is not important, the concept is important. Now, if this is the tangent and this is x-axis, what is the angle between these two? The angle between these two is 0 degree. Now, what is tan 0? Tan 0 is 0, which means at B, slope is 0, right? Now, what is slope? Slope here is basically change in y-axis with respect to change in x-axis. So this slope is now equal to 0, right? Now try and come to this question. See, if instead of y and x, if we have here v and t, what can we say? We can say that dv by dt is equal to 0. Now, the value was slowly increasing. It came to a maximum at A, right? So when there is maximum, the tangent at that point will be parallel, and therefore the slope will be equal to 0. So when the velocity is maximum, so when the y-axis is represented by velocity, when it is maximum, the slope at this point will be equal to 0. The slope at this point A, and for that matter, slope at this point B, will basically be the change in y-axis with respect to change in time. Or in other words, this is basically time rate of velocity should be equal to 0. Now, what is time rate of velocity? Is d by dt of what is velocity given as 2t into 3 minus t, and this should be equal to 0. Now, what is dt? What is d by dt of 2 into 3 minus t? Is d by dt of 6t minus 2t square is equal to 0. What is d by dt of 6t? It is 6. What is d by dt of 2t square? It is 4t, right? 4t to the power 2 minus 1, that is 1. Now, if this is equal to 0, we can say that t is equal to 3 by 2. Okay, so instead of trying to just memorize that dy by dt is equal to 0, you should actually understand that how did this maximum velocity get related to the graph, and how did this dv by dt becomes 0.